Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. My name is Spectrebolt, and welcome to the Gaming Talks Grab Bag. Now, I get it. $60 is a lot for you to gamble on, especially these days when publishers are putting out broken and half-assed products every now and again. So, here I am to help you guys out and find a game that is at a reasonable price and is fully functional and enjoyable to play. This week, I want to focus the spotlight on Trigger Witch. Trigger Witch. Goodness, I feel like I slurred over the logo the first time around. This is a twin-stick shooter, and in the game you play as a young girl named Colette. She is a witch, but she's a kind of witch that doesn't use magic. So the story of Trigger Witch takes place in this world where magic is basically gone. It's gone. So the world has resorted to using guns instead, and the guns are sort of magic based in a way. I'll get to that in a second, but this is basically, to really sell you on it, this is pretty much Zelda meets guns. It's top-down sort of adventure role-playing in a way, in dungeon crawling, similar to a Zelda game. I don't really play a lot of Zelda games, but this one, if I was to compare it to any of them, I'd say it's like, if you're a fan of A Link to the Past or A Link Between Worlds or Link's Awakening, any of those three, you're probably going to enjoy this. So the cool thing about Trigger Witch is that while it is a twin-stick shooter, it kind of goes against the shooting aspect a little bit. And I know I'm saying that, and there's probably guns going off on the screen here and whatnot, but what I mean by that is it's not shooter in the sense of you don't have to go around and collect ammunition all the time. What it does is it gives you the ability to use two weapons at a time that are both limited on ammunition before you have to switch back to a different weapon or resort to your pistol, which you can use however long and as many times as you like, and you can even reload it. Otherwise, when you run out of ammunition for a different gun, like a shotgun or an assault rifle, what it does is it puts it on a cooldown for a while before you can use it again. So it's like, okay, you've used up all the clip of this, you need to use one of your other two weapons to get stuff done. But the game is pretty much the standard dungeon crawling fare you can expect. These massive dungeons with a ton of secrets to find, whether that be hidden chests, combat encounters, or secret paths that'll lead you to a hidden area, right? Like, say, the top of a cliff that holds a treasure chest outside of the dungeon, right? And there are a few sections in the dungeons as well to expect, like on-rail shooters, there's a few of those, but for the most part, it's pretty much what you would expect from a game that takes level design and world design of Zelda and clashes it with twin-stick shooting like, I don't want to say Xevious or Galaga because that's not entirely accurate, but those are the two that come to mind for some reason. But it's a really, really cool game, and they give you a ton of enemies to kind of test your mettle, and they're all enemies that do different things. So you have your basic dudes that kind of just run at you. You always got to have those kinds, right? But then you have other guys who will charge up attacks and then bum rush you. You have guys who will take defense and shield the rest of the army. And if you kill the person behind them, then they'll go and shield somebody else and be like, oh, well, let's try you then. Hopefully you'll survive. But some of the really cool parts about this game is when you're exploring these dungeons, because every one of them holds a new weapon for you to find, one new weapon. So, as I mentioned, you can get a shotgun, you can get an assault rifle, later on you can get a sniper rifle. I don't want to spoil too much, because this game is really cool, and the weapons you find later on are really, really cool. There's also a lot of humor written into the story. It's not always haha funny, but it's smartly written, I'd say. There are some political themes in there that I think they kind of say a few things about not necessarily what's going on in the world, but some of the problems that we do face today in society. And it's not like preachy about it either. It kind of shows some parallels that I think are interesting. So I figured I would bring that up just because I know people are like, oh, I don't want politics in my games. Well, unfortunately, there's politics in entertainment, but the way that this game goes about doing it, I think it's great. And I've already platinumed it too on PlayStation 4, and I'm getting ready to platinum it again. I loved it so much. There's also an unlockable arena that you can get about midway into the game, where if you really want to test your skills and try and do this sort of horde mode, you can do that, and you can go as long as you can. And the best part too is you can do both on foot and on rails. It's really cool. And it gets harder and harder. They start throwing more enemies at you, tougher enemies at you, and on top of that, the arena is covered in traps. How do you avoid those traps? Well, I'm glad that you asked, figment of my imagination. I almost forgot. There is a key mechanic to this game that that I think Doom Eternal players will like, and there's a dash mechanic. Now, this dash mechanic is basically brief invincibility. Use it and you can get through traps, you can dodge bullets without any worry for harm for the most part, unless you dodge straight into a bullet, then I'll be the first to admit I've done that a handful of times. Other ways to improve your arsenal, you can find a bunch of treasure chests in the overworld that'll usually contain a mod, and what you can do is you can take that to a merchant and use those to unlock upgrade bars for your weapons, and from there you can spend gems or rubies or whatever they're called, I really don't know. But you can spend the in-game currency to upgrade the stats for your guns, making them much more deadly and effective against tougher foes. It really helped me with the later bosses in the game, because the later bosses are pretty freaking hard. Overall, Trigger Witch is just a fantastic game. I think I've covered all the bases that you need to know about it. Now, if this game sounds interesting to you and you're a PC player, I'm sorry to report that it doesn't seem like there's any PC version for you to nab of Trigger Witch. However, if you do own any of the consoles, the Switch, the PlayStation 4 and 5, the Xbox One or Series XX, Trigger Witch is available there, and it is currently available, if my page will load correctly, my page of info, it is available for $14.99 USD. So it's a pretty cheap game, and the adventure lasts roughly, it took me about 7 hours to platinum the game, so we can increase that to 8 hours. I used a bit of a guide for the last few chests that I was struggling to get a hold of. The game really wants you to explore. That's one thing I really need to tell you. It wants you to explore. So if you pick up the game, I recommend try to balance your time between tackling dungeons and progressing in the story, and then exploring and trying to find mods across the overworld. And I think if you do that, the game shouldn't give you too many problems. And at that point, it just becomes a test of skill, really. But again, highly recommend it. I'm actually going to stream the PlayStation 5 version this weekend. I think I'm going to try and aim for Sunday at noon for my personal channel, Specterbull. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to me over there. And I hope you guys pick this up at some point. If not this weekend, then sometime in the near future. But really, go give this game a shot. Trigger Witch, available on Xbox One, Xbox Series XS, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and Nintendo Switch. Hopefully at some point it comes to Steam in the future, but I'm not so sure about that. We'll see. Until next time, I hope you guys have a marvelous weekend. My name is Specterbull, and I'll see you guys next Friday for the new episode of Gaming Talks Grab Bag. Goodbye!